Hello, my name is Darius, and this is the first of my recap series. If you don't know what this is, you should probably go watch my welcome video. In this video, I'm going to be recapping my action-packed series called Taekwon-K.O. Yeah, it's a strange name, but you get used to it. This story was the first series where I had fully original characters. However, I didn't make the series alone. Well, sort of, but a friend of mine helped with the core aspects of the series, so I'm very grateful for them. Anyways, let's stop chit-chatting and let's begin. Episode 1 The Fighters of Heartgrove, Part 1. This story starts in a town called Heartgrove. The police are chasing a mysterious man, and the man escapes into the sewers. The next day, we meet the main character, Rick Lake, a courageous and kind young boy who's been homeschooled his entire life. Well, until now. Rick is heading off to his first day in high school. We also get to meet his mother, Martha, who is a single mother. Rick heads off to school and has an encounter with a blonde girl and a girl with dyed purple hair and a ponytail, and Rick begins to fall for the ponytail girl. Later, all of a sudden, an alarm goes off because a criminal has entered the school. Rick is outside the class, and as he tries to get back to class, he runs right into the criminal. Since Rick has past experience in fighting, he's able to defend himself by fighting the criminal. 4 other kids also show up to help Rick fight the criminal, and they're able to knock him out for the police. In that fight, however, a man was watching them. By the end of the day, the 4 kids invite Rick to walk home with them. During the walk, they get to know each other. The ponytail girl is Kiki. She's a kind and positive girl who loves to wear a different sweater like every episode. This is Kyle. He's edgy and sort of a jerk, to be really honest, but you can tell he's hiding something. This is Aster, a lovable airhead who is really supportive. The blonde girl is Miranda. She's a kind autistic girl who is always nice to hang around with. Miranda sees a man in a pipe and decides to follow him into it. The others follow and they all end up in a room in the sewers. That's when they meet a mysterious, muscular man named Yama. He tells the kids he is from another dimension, and he proves this by showing them his gem birthmark that every one of his kind has. He states he is here to find warriors to protect their home from his brother. They wonder why he wants them, and he states he saw them protect the school from the criminal, and he believes they are capable of this task. Yama says he will teach them the art of Taekwondo to protect this world from his brother. Episode 2 The Rise of the Fighters of Heartgrove, Part 2. It's been about 3 weeks since Episode 1, and the kids after school every day have been training in the dojo in the sewers. Yama alerts the others that his brother has arrived to Heartgrove, and he gives them their signature robes. He also tells each of them the fighting style they must master. Kiki, the style of kicking, Kyle defense, Aster grappling, Miranda surprise. If you're confused by that, it's okay, because it won't be explained. And Rick, the style of creativity. Before they leave, Rick asks Yama why he can't just deal with his brother himself, and he says if he is found by the police, he'll be arrested since he isn't from Earth. The kids, which I'll call Team Taekwondo, meet Yama's brother for the very first time. That's not him. That's him. His name is Bob, but he goes by Blackclaw because, well, I don't think I need to explain why. Blackclaw, with a group of monsters called Night Beasts, states he will take back this land for his people. Team Taekwondo battles monsters and win. Blackclaw retreats and declares he will get his revenge. Episode 3 Rikio and Kikiette? Yama is proud of the team for winning their first fight and states Rick will lead Team Taekwondo. He tells them they cannot tell anyone about him or their Taekwondo identity. In school, we meet Kiki's best friend, Rachel, a sarcastic and bratty girl who loves drama. The school is holding a play for Romeo and Juliet, and Kiki auditions, but she also asks Rick if he would like to audition as well, and he says yes. They pass the audition and get the roles of Romeo and Juliet. They do the play and have a fake kiss. Even though it's fake though, that's when their feelings towards each other begin to blossom. Episode 4 The Staff of Dark Monsters. After episode 2, Blackclaw ends up in a weird orange veil and teleports him to some weird cave. Blackclaw sees a staff and tries to see if it's a powerful weapon, but nothing happens. Blackclaw starts to get angry, and all of a sudden, small little monsters pop out of the staff. Then Blackclaw realizes this staff is way more powerful than he thought. Team Taekwondo get their signature weapons. Rick gets a bow staff, Kiki a chain mace, Aster nunchucks, Miranda a bow and arrow, and Kyle some staff with a sai at the end. During school, Rick realizes a monster has been stalking him. The others come up with a plan to lure it out, and it works, and they kill the beast with their new weapons. We see Blackclaw in his base, and he says he has to show him the staff of dark monsters. Episode 5: The Little Girl and the Unicorn. Blackclaw tries to make a new monster, but as he makes it, his emotion is changed midway through, affecting the monster he made. In school, a new girl joins the classroom, a 5-year-old girl named Maya. She's funny and also extremely smart. That's how she was able to get into high school at the age of 5. During lunch, Kiki invites Maya to join their friend group, since she has no friends. They get to know how smart Maya is, and begin to bond with her. The team gets called to the dojo, and Yama tells them a black unicorn is attacking Heartgrove. But he also tells them they will be gaining a new team member, and it is of course, Maya. Maya has past experience in fighting, and she excels in the style of speed. They go and battle the unicorn, but fail. During the fight though, the unicorn accidentally makes a portal and sends itself and Maya into it. In a different dimension, Maya convinces the unicorn to turn good, and it evolves. Maya names the unicorn Sparkle, and it becomes her friend. Episode 6: The Edgelord. Today is family day in school, and people's parents are hanging out around the school. The others notice Kyle is all alone, and they wonder where his parents are. Kyle says he doesn't have parents, and he just rudely tells them to bug off. All of a sudden, they get called to the dojo for a lesson. By the way, Yama got a phone so he can text them, but he's awful at doing it. During the lesson, Kyle is being disrespectful, so he makes a new lesson where he makes the others hit Kyle with plunger arrows, and he is not allowed to fight back. Kyle just thinks it's a punishment, but Yama informs him it was meant to test his anger. Team Taekwondo find out a robbery is occurring, so they go off to stop it. They find some monster that looks like an ARMS knockoff, stealing cash. They fight the monster, but lose, and the monster takes all of them except Kyle and runs into the forest. Kyle goes into the forest to save them, but as he tries to free them from a rope, Aster begins to annoy Kyle and asks why he was so against talking about his parents. And that's when he tells them his parents were killed when he was 5 years old. We get a flashback to him in a playground, and a criminal ends up there running from the police. His parents try to stop the criminal, but it was a horrible mistake. The criminal shoots both of them, and Kyle saw all of it. That moment changed him forever. Back to the present, the ARMS ripoff shows up again, and Kyle defeats it. He frees the others, and he says he will try to be a better person from now on. Episode 7: A Hero with an IQ of 0. The gang are invited to Aster's house, and Aster's mom informs them Aster got hit by a rock when he was young, which is what gave him his scar, and may or may not have made him an idiot. All of a sudden, they find out a factory is being attacked by Blackclaw. As they try to sneak in, Aster accidentally reveals them, and gets them all captured except for himself. He goes back to the dojo and feels guilty for being an idiot. Yama tells him even if he isn't the brightest, his heart is in the right place, so that's all that matters. Now encouraged, Aster goes back and saves the others, and defeat Blackclaw's monsters, making him retreat. Episode 8: Autistic Dreams. Blackclaw comes back from his dimension with a scroll. The scroll is for an evolution of the night beast called Dream Beasts. Monsters that can go into the dreams of others and kill them from the inside. Blackclaw makes 2 of his beasts into Dream Beasts, and they go off to use them on Team Taekwondo. Blackclaw uses a sleeping gas on Team Taekwondo, and they all fall asleep. The beasts go into Miranda's mind first, and hours later, they all wake up except for her. Yama realizes what is happening to Miranda, and tells the others that Miranda is dying. So how do they save her? They get these random helmets from a store that can go into people's minds. Yeah, it makes no sense, just roll with it. They get into her mind and see a wonderland with Miranda clones everywhere. They find the true Miranda in a tower, about to get attacked by the dream beasts. They fight them but lose and get thrown into Miranda's memories. They end up in one of Miranda's worst memories, when she was abandoned by her mother at an orphanage because she was autistic. Yeah, that mother is awful. They're able to escape the memories and defeat the dream beasts. They leave Miranda's mind and she eventually wakes up and says her first word. Hi. Episode 9. The Battle for Kiki. At a smoothie shop, Rick finds out from Kiki that she's having a hangout with her ex-boyfriend. But Rick doesn't believe it's just a hangout, and he begins to worry that she might get back with her ex-boyfriend during the hangout. So he attempts to stop it, but nothing works. The ex-boyfriend named Adam finds out what Rick is doing and talks with him alone. He admits he's trying to get back with Kiki, and he threatens Rick to stay away from her. Later, Kiki and Adam go to a restaurant and Rick follows. He hears him quoting a love show out of context, making him think they are back together, and he leaves. After he leaves, Adam makes an offensive pickup line on Kiki, and she ends the hangout. The next day, Kiki asks why Rick is so sad, and that's when he confesses to her he has a crush on her. Kiki tells Rick that her and Adam are not actually together, but she doesn't tell Rick that she also has a crush on him as well. Episode 10. The Bacon Club. This episode actually isn't important, we can skip this. Episode 11. Runaway Choopy. Today is Bring Your Pet Day, and we get to meet the main cast's pets. Rick has a dog named Choopy, Kiki has a cat named Drool, Kyle has a raven named Soul, Maya has a baby panther, Aster has a fish named Fishy the 7th, don't ask why he has 6 other fishies, and Miranda has a snake named Nake. Rick tells the others that when he was 5, his father left for an unknown reason, and he was very sad. So his mother got him Choopy, and it was the happiest day of his life. Later, Choopy runs after a squirrel, and the others have to chase down Choopy around the town. They eventually get him back, and the episode ends. Episode 12. Jerky Relationships. Kyle gets called by the others during the night, but it doesn't wake him up. The next morning, Kyle realizes the others aren't at school. He even tries calling them back, but they don't answer. During lunch, Rachel hangs out with him since Kiki isn't at school. Rachel accidentally embarrasses Kyle, and he leaves the room in rage. Kyle's teacher assigns an assignment that he must do with Rachel. They don't get along at first, but eventually they find out they have a lot of things in common. All of a sudden, some jerk shows up and insults Kyle, and he tries to get Rachel to join him. She sarcastically agrees with the jerk just to get him to leave, but Kyle doesn't realize she was lying, and he runs away upset. Rachel finds Kyle outside and apologizes to him. They get to talk more, and eventually, they begin to grow feelings between each other. Later that day, Kyle gets called to the dojo and sees the others. Rick tells Kyle they had a crazy adventure. What were they doing the whole episode? You are about to find out. Episode 13. The Big Picture. We go back to the start of episode 12, and Rick sees Blacklaw attacking a museum, so he calls the others at night. They all go, except Kyle obviously, and find Blacklaw trying to resurrect the dragon skeleton. The dragon comes to life, and Blacklaw makes it defeat Team Taekwondo. They wake up in his base and find out from Blacklaw the dragon is called the Shadow Wing, and it is from his dimension. He also tells them the reason why he wants to take over Heartgrove is because Heartgrove belonged to their people first. A long time ago, the ruler of Blacklaw's dimension found Heartgrove and made it their home. But then another tribe of humans showed up and wanted the land for themselves, so they had a war. Blacklaw's people lost though, and were banished to a different realm, where they built a new society and even began mutating as they were there. They all began to get their gem birthmarks, and some people even got supernatural abilities. Blacklaw with his monsters head off to his dimension for an unknown reason. Team Taekwondo are able to get out of the rope, but they end up waking up the Shadow Wing. It chases them down, and Rick is able to slay the beast. Later, they call Kyle to the dojo and tell him and Yama everything that happened. Yama realizes something terrible is about to happen, so they need to travel to his dimension. Chrono. Episode 14. Journey to Chrono. Yama uses the Chrono teleporter to make a portal to Chrono. They teleport to a world with mountains, dirt, dried up grass, and a blue and orangish sky. Yama knows where Blacklaw may be, so they head off into Chrono. Meanwhile with Blacklaw, he ends up at an ancient looking castle he calls home. He walks in and talks with a very important character in this story. Blacklaw and Yama's father, the ruler of Chrono. Blacklaw's dad, who will stay nameless for now, talks with Blacklaw, and Blacklaw tells him about Team Taekwondo. He also shows him the staff of dark monsters he found. That's when Blacklaw's father reveals that was his staff, and it was taken away from him when he was banished to Chrono. He asks for it back, but Blacklaw doesn't want to give it back. Blacklaw thinks it is time now to attack Heartgrove, but his father says it is not the right time. Enraged, Blacklaw just says he will take over Heartgrove himself, and he leaves. With Yama and the others, they find Blacklaw entering a temple. This temple holds the bones of a humongous titan called the Dark Beast. It was a terrifying monster that was defeated by Blacklaw's father, and its bones were stored in the temple. Blacklaw resurrects it so it can lay waste to Heartgrove. Team Taekwondo try to fight the Dark Beast, but Yama gets them out of there because he knows they cannot defeat that monster. Blacklaw and the Beast open a portal and head back to Heartgrove. The Season 1 finale, Episode 15, Big Trouble. Team Taekwondo used their Chrono Teleporter to get back to Heartgrove. They get back and find half of it in ruin. Yama decides to go and fight the Dark Beast on his own, while the others split up to help the people. We see a Night Beast attacking their classroom, and Rachel hides under a desk while everyone else leaves. All of a sudden, Kyle comes in and defeats the Night Beast, and leaves thinking no one saw him. But as I just said, Rachel was still in that room. Yama gets to the Dark Beast and fights it. He isn't successful though, and as he is about to get killed, Team Taekwondo show up and save him. They have an epic showdown with the Dark Beast, but they still lose. They are about to get eviscerated by the laser eyes, but Rick jumps in front of the beam and somehow reflects it back at the Dark Beast, killing it. Blacklaw gets away, and Team Taekwondo get back to the sewers before anyone can see them. Yama talks with Rick, and he asks him how he possibly did that, because an ability like that can only be done by special Chrononians. He has no idea, so they decide not to worry about it for the time being. And that concludes Season 1. Now Season 2 is shorter, but will have much less filler, so let's get started. Episode 16, Taekwondo Returns. We see Blacklaw after episode 15, and he finds a hologram in the sewers, and the hologram is from his own father. He tells Blacklaw he has a mission for him. He wants him to build a portal bridge to Chrono, so him and his entire army can take back Heartgrove. Blacklaw finds the beginning parts of the bridge in a room in the sewers, and he decides to make it his new base. 6 months pass by, and it is the last few weeks of school. The principal announces the events that will be happening in the last few weeks. Later in the hallways, the gang are talking about their parents, and that's when Rick tells them he doesn't really know anything about his dad. He doesn't really remember what he looks like. After school, Rick talks with his mom, and he asks her what happened to his dad. She tells him he was a firefighter who died trying to save people. And that's when his mom tells him, after that, she promised that she will protect Rick at any cost. Team Taekwondo find out the museum is getting attacked again, so they go to stop it. They find Blacklaw with a device, but he is able to get away with it. Episode 17, School Dance. The school is having a school dance, and Kiki and Rick ask each other out to it. Later, Rick picks her up from her house and gets to meet her parents for the first time. During the dance, Kiki and Rick get real close, and I mean real close. Kiki decides to try and go for a kiss, but Rick actually backs out of it. He backed out because he was too scared. Later in the day, he feels bad for doing it, but he hopes one day he can make it up to her. Episode 18, Class Trip Part 1. Today is the first year's overnight trip. Rick and his whole class head off to a place called St. Heartgrove Lake and meet their guide, Abigail. During the day, they do many activities and get to eat at a good restaurant. Near the end of the day, Rick spots a shady man far away, but he decides not to investigate. Later that night, we see the shady man talking to a monster saying that the kids are asleep, so it is time. Rick wakes up to smoke in the middle of the night and looks outside, and he sees a huge forest fire. Episode 19, Class Trip Part 2. Rick alerts Abigail and she wakes up the entire class. As she is explaining what they should do, Rick remembers the shady man he saw earlier and he believes he is the culprit. He tells the others they should try and go out and find him, but Maya insists that's the police's job, not theirs. But Rick just has a bad feeling about this dude, so he goes out by himself. The others find out Rick left, so they go out to try and stop him. No one notices they left, except for Rachel. The guys split up in the forest to find Rick. Meanwhile with Rick, he encounters the man, and the man decides to try and kill Rick. Rick is able to defend himself though, and the two fight. Kiki and Maya find these monsters that look like a different form of night beasts. With Kyle, he is fighting these monsters, and he finds Rachel about to get attacked by one. So he saves her, and Rachel tells him that she knows about his Taekwondo identity, and she demands to know why he's doing it. Before he can explain though, more monsters show up. As Rick is fighting the man, he finds out he is Chrononian. The man pins Rick to the ground and notices that Rick has a small birthmark on his shoulder. That's when the man grins and says these words to Rick. "Nice to meet you again, son." Rick doesn't believe the man, but then he realizes how the story his mom told him made no sense. Then Rick began to believe this man actually was his father. Rick gets angry and light bursts out of his body. Rick fights the man and he asks him why he left him and his mom. Rick's father tells him he left because he knew Rick would be too weak to become a Chrononian warrior, so being his father was pointless. Rick's father breaks his arm and knocks him out. Before Rick's father can finish Rick off, he gets called, so he leaves. Later, the others meet up and find out Rachel knows about them. They are all called back to their cabin, and of course, they get in massive trouble. Kiki notices a desperate voice coming from the forest. She sees Rick dragging himself across the floor out of the forest, bloody and bruised. As he tries to help him, Rick blacks out. Episode 20, The Truth. Rick's father shows up to Black Claw's base and tells him he was sent to Heartgrove by Black Claw's father to help him build the bridge. He's the one who left the hologram, by the way. Black Claw knows the man as his father's top warrior, and he asks for his name. Rick's father reveals that his name is Rex. Rick's father opens a briefcase and shows Black Claw a blue crystal that he got from St. Heartgrove Lake that will be the power source of the bridge. We see Rick wake up in the hospital with his mom right next to him. The doctor comes in and tells Rick about his injuries. He just has a couple of cuts and bruises that will heal in a couple of days, but his broken arm will take a bit to fully heal. But the doctor also asks how Rick even got these injuries. Rick remembers what happened and decides to lie to him. His mom doesn't believe him though, and demands to talk with Rick alone. Rick doesn't tell his mom the full truth, but he just says that he was beat up by a dude in the forest. But that's when Rick asks his mom what really happened to his dad. Rick's mother also doesn't tell the full truth, but she just says that her and his father fought a lot, so his father eventually left. We see a flashback to the two arguing. Rex is freaking out about Rick because Rick hasn't shown any abilities of his Chrononian line yet. Martha insists that maybe he's just a normal human, so they can live as a normal family. But Rex did not have Rick to live as a normal family, so he left. Martha says that he doesn't need to worry about him anymore, but Rick knows that that will not be the last time he sees his father. Episode 21, Talent Show. In the dojo, the others tell Yama the events of the class trip, and Rick is also there out of the hospital. Rick decides to tell everyone what happened with his dad, and now Yama knows how Rick was able to defeat the Dark Beast. Later at school, the performance for the last day of school talent show have been revealed, and Maya, Rick, and Kiki find out they are going to perform. Episode 22, Imprisoned. The bridge has been finished, and Rex and all the monsters are ready for Blacklaw to open the bridge. But Blacklaw refuses to open it because he thinks he must defeat Team Taekwondo before he brings his dad to Heartgrove. Later, as the gang are training, they notice Miranda isn't there, so they go out to find her. They find Miranda getting attacked by Night Beasts, so they help her. All of a sudden, Blacklaw shows up with his favorite Night Beast, Big Rufus. That's a really dumb name. Anyways, they fight Big Rufus, and during the fight, Kiki ends up falling in a sewer hole. In the sewer hole, Kiki ends up finding Blacklaw's base, and sees a paper with Blacklaw's whole plan on it. Before she leaves though, Rex shows up. Kiki tries to get away, but before she goes, Rex throws a tiny mechanism on Kiki's non-existent neck. Yama sees the others are losing against the Night Beast, so he goes out to help them. He defeats Big Rufus, but then the cops show up. Yama realizes they cannot get away this time, so Yama decides to get himself arrested so the others can get away. Later with Blacklaw, he talks with Rex, and Rex tells Blacklaw what he put on Kiki, and that gives Blacklaw an evil idea. And that is the end of the Taekwon-K.O recap. I really hope you guys are interested in this story. If you want to see what happens next, you actually can. This video took a long time to come out because a lot of garbage happened behind the scenes. So any support is really appreciated. Likes, whatever you can do. I'm not like begging for it, but I'm just saying I really appreciate it because God, getting this video out has been torture. And I know my mic isn't the best and the pictures weren't the best, but this is my first video and it'll improve, I promise. So yeah. I just wanted to tell you guys that. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more recaps in the future.